And with this conditioning or exposure treatment, over a number of sessions, you tend to be exposed to the thing that causes you a phobia as part of the therapeutic process until you reach the point where you're no longer freaking out over it. Now, this can take a long time, and it is flipping scary, as you can imagine. You're scared of wibbles, so hey, come into the therapy room. Here's a wibble. Ah! Right. Freedom from phobia does not use any form of exposure treatment, but this used to be a very common way of helping people, or supposedly helping people to conquer their phobia. A variation of it you may have come across was flooding, where the person with a phobia is completely immersed in that fear until the fear itself fades away. So you're completely immersed. You're flooded with that fear until the fear itself starts to eventually fades away. The theory is then by that stage you won't be scared of the thing anymore, because many people's phobias are so strong that flooding can only be done by imagining the thing that gives you the phobia rather than actually coming in contact with it. And even there, it's still a very terrifying process. Obviously, freedom from phobia doesn't involve any form of flooding, which I certainly do not expose you to wibbles. What else? Oh, let's see. Counter conditioning was then developed because many people couldn't handle flooding. So another form called counter conditioning was developed. And with counter conditioning, the patient you're trained to substitute relaxation for fear in the presence of the thing that causes you the phobia. And this comes from the basis that you can't be scared and relaxed at the same time. So if you're relaxed, you can't be scared. So that's where they developed counter conditioning, where you're trained to be relaxed in the presence of the thing that causes you the phobia. A popular form, sometimes known as systematic desensitization, involves 3 steps in the process. The first step, you're trained to physically relax. So you have a few sessions teaching you how to physically relax. Second step, kind of set up a hierarchy of anxiety in terms of the thing that causes the phobia. And the different things that cause your phobia. Kind of set hierarchies. Which is the one that causes the least amount of anxiety, right the way up to which is the bit that causes the most anxiety. Then the third step is basically you start with the least scary thing, and you go into your relaxed state, and they bring in this scary thing, and you continue focusing on being relaxed until you're able to stay relaxed with that scary thing. And then they move up to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Oh, God, obviously, it can take a heck of a long time, right? And you're being exposed to all the things that you're scared of. Whoa, it takes a long time, very scary. And again, I do not use any of that stuff, but this was how some phobia cures were done. There was another one called modelling. It's not walking down the catwalk in your latest designer outfit. Basically, modelling, you as the patient are taught to observe or model how other people behave in the presence of the thing that you're terrified of. And you're trained to notice how they react with relaxation rather than fear, and then you're encouraged to imitate that. And gradually, over time, it starts to reduce the severity of your phobia. And that's the theory. And again, it takes a long time, long process, makes it an expensive process. And really all it's doing is just kind of helping you to deal with the symptoms rather than the cause, the underlying phobia. So you still have the phobia, but you're able to kind of keep a bit of a lid on it. That's as far as it would get. And again, freedom from phobia, the process I use, does not use modelling. Doesn't use any of these scary things at all. What does it use? Well, we'll take a look at that in just a couple of moments. But first, let's go back with some music, and let's have David Bowie cheer us up with I'm Afraid of Americans.
Johnny's in America, no tax at the wheel. No one needs anyone, they don't even just pretend. Johnny's in America. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. Johnny's in America. Johnny wants a brain. Johnny wants to suck on the coke. Johnny wants a woman. Johnny wants to think of a joke. Johnny's in America. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. Johnny's in America. Johnny looks up at the stars. Johnny combs his hair and Johnny wants to be seeing cars. Johnny's in America. Johnny's in America. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. Yeah, I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. God is an American. 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 God is an American.
T-minus 10.
You're listening to the Confidence Alchemist radio show with your host, the Confidence Alchemist himself, Keith Blakemore Noble.
That was David Bowie there with I'm Afraid of Americans. Welcome back, welcome back. So we've taken a look at what phobias are, what they're not, how they're developed. We've taken a look at some of the old type of attempts at cures. So let's take a look at freedom from phobia. Basically, how have I been helping people for the past 8 years to actually conquer their phobias without having to come face to face with the thing that causes them the phobia, and do it quickly and fun. So without having to take dozens and dozens of sessions. Well, freedom from phobia is the process I've created. It's based upon extensive study and the use of the latest and most powerful mind sciences around. And I've based this on completely conquering my own phobias around heights and spiders, and helping a great many other people to let go of their phobias. I've been doing this since 2010. In fact, the reason I still work with phobias is the very, very first client I ever had wanted me to help them conquer a phobia of spiders. And no matter what I do in coaching, I always get people saying, hey, that's cool. Can you help me to get rid of a phobia? So, yeah, that's where freedom from phobia came from. And that's what I use, and that's why I still do it even now. Because the key to freedom from phobia, to completely blasting your phobia away and reprogramming your mind so you can't even do the old phobia anymore, and doing all of this quickly and fun without any need to come in contact with the thing that gave you the phobia. The secret, or the key, well, I've mentioned it a few times already. It's the fact that we learn phobias. So we learned how to do a phobia, which means we can learn a different way if you know how, and that's where I come in. And the great thing is, because you did such an excellent job of learning how to have a phobia, and because you're so good at having that phobia every time you meet the thing that scares you, that means that you are able to learn and replace the phobia with a new behavior quickly and easily. And as I mentioned before, the paradox is the stronger your phobia, the better your results. And this can be done one-on-one, or it can be done over Skype or a phone or whatever. And it's always done in a single session. Typically lasts up to an hour. The fastest session I've had with someone, the shortest session I should say I've ever had with someone, was just under 10 minutes. Their phobia completely gone in just under 10 minutes. So, sounds almost too good to be true, right? Well, we'll take a look in a few moments at some people, the stories of some of the people who've gone through this, but let's just kind of break down what the 4 steps are. First of all is we identify the specific thing which causes you the fear or the anxiety. Is it spiders? Is it heights? Is it flying? Is it needles? Is it the dentist? Is it thunder and lightning? Is it snakes? Is it whatever it is? So we identify what the specific thing is. Now, you might not actually be aware of what that is right now. Sometimes you can think you have a phobia of one thing, and it actually turns out it's a phobia of something else. I had someone who thought they had a phobia of flying. It turned out they actually had almost claustrophobia. So that's why this first step is so important, to work out what it specifically is it that's actually causing the anxiety. Then we discover what specifically it is about these that trigger your phobia. So it tells us how you do your phobia. It tells us how do you know it's time to do the phobia, basically. And we kind of work out how you do this. And we do this in a fun and friendly and enjoyable way. The important thing throughout this whole process is that we keep it fun. People often end up laughing during the process. So much, it's so much fun. And then once we've kind of figured out what tells you it's time to do the phobia and how you know how to do the phobia, that's when we've got what's called your phobia strategy. That tells us how your unconscious does the strategy of doing a phobia, and that's the thing that we then work on changing. We change that strategy, and we change the associations, because the third step is we uncover how you learned to be scared. As we said, all phobias are learned responses. So we pinpoint what was the point that taught you how to be scared. Because when we get back to that point, when we can learn something different, a new way to behave, that's when we totally overwrite the phobia. We get rid of the emotion around it, and we install the new way. Now, sometimes you may not be consciously aware of the original cause. In fact, in a lot of cases, you're not consciously aware of what caused it, because that was such a scary thing. Your unconscious mind hides it away what that original event was. However, the important thing is your unconscious will always know what that event was. Your unconscious will always be aware of it, which means your unconscious can always go back to that event. And all change actually occurs at the unconscious level anyway. If you could make change occur at the conscious level, you just have to think about changing and bam, you'd have changed it. All change actually occurs at the unconscious level. So the tools that we use in Freedom from Phobia work with your unconscious. So even though you may not consciously be aware of what that event was, your unconscious is aware of it, and your unconscious can go back to that event work through it using the process